Good afternoon. Bonjour. We're gathered on the traditional territory of the signatories of Treaty 7, the Blackfoot, Tsuut'ina, and the Yarhe Nakota. And I acknowledge the Métis people who share a deep connection to this land. I am grateful for all of the stewards of this land who came before me. I'm joined today by Joe Ceci, a two-term MLA and former city councillor, and as it turns out, a very happy camper. And Amanda Chapman, our incredible Alberta NDP candidate for Calgary-Beddington and an avid hiker. And she's joined today by her daughter Lizzie, who is quite the camper as I understand it. I'm Sarah Elmeligi, the NDP candidate for Banff-Kananaskis. Like so many families in this region, my family and I spend a great deal of time in Alberta parks, hiking, camping, rock and ice climbing, and enjoying nature. I've been an advocate for Alberta parks my entire career. As a professional conservation biologist, I've focused my work protecting nature in places like the Castle Wildland Provincial Parks and Kananaskis Country. Here's the thing about Albertans. We love our parks. And when the UCP tried to delist them and sell them off, we fought back, and we continue to do that today. We have a message to send today. Our parks need protection, and do not turn our parks and our campsites into coal mines. Instead of expanding the opportunities for Albertans to enjoy nature, the UCP wanted to sell our parks off to the highest bidder. But we say our parks are not for sale. Instead of making parks more affordable, the UCP want to raise fees for families to go camping or hiking. That's wrong. When the UCP tried to delist or sell off 175 of our parks, thousands of Albertans spoke up and fought back. They wore buttons, wore letters, put up lawn signs. They even had internet video protests at home. And many of those lawn signs could be found on the yards and balconies of traditional UCP voters. I still see them on the lawns in my riding when I go door knocking every day. That loophole in our parks law that the UCP tried to exploit, it still exists today. Our parks are not safe under the UCP. But if the Alberta NDP forms government, we'll close that loophole. We'll put the protection of parks into law with an updated Alberta Parks Act, so families can continue to enjoy our parks for years to come. I'm proud to be running for the only party that will protect our parks, invest in them, and keep them affordable. That matters to my family, and I know it does to yours. And now I'd like to turn things over to Joe Ceci to make an exciting announcement about investing in parks.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for coming, Lizzie, Amanda. Like Sarah said, I'm a very happy camper and backpacker. We live in a beautiful province. As Albertans, our relationship to the land, the water, and the wildlife is an important part of who we are. That relationship was deepened during the pandemic when hundreds of thousands of new park lovers flocked to our parks for recreation and to enjoy wildlife and wild places. They need a government that understands that and a government they can trust. We don't have that today. We can't take these beautiful places for granted. We have to protect them, invest in them, and keep them affordable. That's why we are announcing today a $250 million infrastructure investment in our parks and public lands. This investment will fund new campsites and trails for families to enjoy for decades. That means better trails to take you and your family into Alberta's wild nature. It means more fish cleaning stations when you reel in that big one, more playgrounds for your kids to spend time in the great outdoors, more warm-up shelters for winter adventurers like Sarah's family. And it means that as more and more people come to enjoy Alberta's parks, those parks will be able to thrive. This investment is just one part of our plan to protect parks and keep them affordable. 3 years ago, yesterday in fact, the UCP quietly removed protections for the eastern slopes, allow coal mining on coveted and environmentally sensitive land, coal mining that would have damaged important headwaters in the region. They did this on a Friday of a long weekend, thinking Albertans wouldn't notice. But guess what? Albertans did notice. Albertans got organized, and Albertans fought back. Only after a very loud and long fight did the UCP reinstate a coal policy, which can still be revoked by the stroke of a minister's pen. The UCP can't be trusted with our parks and wilderness areas. Frankly, after Danielle Smith was found guilty of breaking the law, they can't be trusted with anything. Rachel Notley can. She says what she means, and she means what she says, and she has never, ever broken the law. We need lawmakers, not lawbreakers. As lawmakers, an Alberta NDP government will introduce legislation to ensure a full ban on coal mining in the eastern slopes. And we will scrap the UCP's K-Pass and restore Kananaskis country to former Premier Lougheed's vision, a place where all Albertans, regardless of income, can enjoy time with their families in nature. An Alberta NDP government will invest in our parks so families can enjoy the natural wonders of our beautiful province. I'll now pass things over to Amanda, and maybe Lizzie, to share more about our conservation plans. Why don't you go beside your mom?
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Lizzie, for being here today with me. Some of our family's best times are spent hiking in our beautiful parks and provides some peace, some escape from busy life, and some quality time to catch up with each other. So I'm more of a hiker, but Lizzie is the big camper in the family. Alberta is beautiful. We only need to look out our own front doors to see exactly what we're fighting for. As Albertans, we have a shared love of our mountains and wild spaces, and we want to see them preserved for future generations. No more UCP loopholes. Our parks are not for sale. Our eastern slopes are not for sale. We will close the UCP loopholes by enshrining protections into law. We will support Indigenous-led capital projects, as well as investing $5 million for initiatives to co-manage parks and protected areas and establish conservation areas while supporting good jobs for the Indigenous community. This is good for the land, good for Albertans, and good for reconciliation. We will also work with nonprofits and private landholders to conserve our headwaters, wetlands, grasslands, and river valleys. This includes increasing matching funds for the Alberta Land Trust Grant Program by investing an additional $25 million over 3 years. These funds will increase the incentive to a rate of $1 for every $1 of cash and in-kind value that a land trust can raise. Supporting incentives for farmers, ranchers, and others will help to conserve valuable lands for generations of Albertans to come. This has the potential to dramatically increase the rate of conservation, protecting the rich tapestry of land, water, and wildlife that both awes and inspires us. Albertans deserve better than the UCP's tricks. Tricks they play on Friday afternoons when they think no one is watching. Albertans deserve a better government, one they can trust. Albertans deserve a better future. And that better future is within reach with the Alberta NDP. Thank you, and we can now take questions.
Great.
Thank you. Just a reminder, if you're on Zoom, it's the raise hand function. If you're on the phone, it's *9. Please state your name and outlet and who you'd like to direct your question to. We'll start in person first, if there's any questions in person.
Thank you. Marc-Antoine Leblanc, CBC Radio Canada French. I think my first question is, I don't remember the groups exactly, but I remember...
We can't hear up here.
Can you hear me?
No.
No? Yeah, we'll scream. Yeah? Sorry. So, yeah, I guess my first question is, some environmental groups said that increasing, you know, the campsites, reducing the price, maybe not a good thing for the environment. So I think my first question is, what do you say? What do you say to that?
What we're proposing today is a comprehensive plan that will actually look at the landscapes of the eastern slopes in their entirety. So we're strengthening parks protections, we're strengthening protection of public lands, and in the context of that, we will be looking at infrastructure investments on the landscape. So that includes campgrounds and trails and even more toilets. But when we take a land use planning approach to this, we can also look at wildlife corridors, headwaters protections, and health of the overall ecosystem. And that really helps us to make sure that when we are investing in infrastructure, it's not coming at the cost of water or wildlife or the grasslands that we all love.
I guess my second question, even though it's been a long time, it's kind of related. You know, the UCP split the two ministries. Would you commit to combine the two ministries?
Do you have an answer for that, Laura? You know, the only person who can comment on the ministerial structure of government is the future premier. We are committed to ensuring functionality of ministries, including ministries that handle the management of public lands and parks. What the future structure of those ministries look like will really depend on who is the future premier.
Thank you. Any more questions in the room?
Hi, Jillian Code with City News. You guys said you'll be getting rid of the K-Pass. How will you guys make up the revenue that was generated from the K-Pass fine or fee?
So Alberta Parks are a public service. The NDP values Alberta Parks as a public service, which means that they will be funded through public dollars, just like other public services like healthcare and education. So we are committed to increasing operational funding for Alberta Parks and sort of making up that money from the Kananaskis Pass with public dollars, which is how it's been done for decades until the last 3 years. We're also looking at other more voluntary payment opportunities for those people who do want to contribute a little bit more to Alberta Parks and who have the economic means to do so. But we want to prioritize access to parks for all Albertans, regardless of how much disposable income they have.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to questions on the phone. Please state your name and outlet and who you'd like to direct your question to. Go ahead, Janet, your line is open.
Hi there, Janet French from the CBC in Edmonton. I just have some money questions. I'm having a look at your one-pager platform costing document. The only thing I see here for parks is $40 million between 2024 and 2026. But then, Joe, you've mentioned $250 million. Is it accounted for elsewhere on this document, or is this a new promise from the time the document was formulated? And does the $250 million include parks? Sorry, the K-Pass.
Sure. So it's accounted elsewhere, and that is in the last budget that was presented to the legislature. I believe it was $210 million, and we're adding an incremental $40 million onto that, Janet, for a $250 million parks infrastructure investment opportunity.
Do you have a follow-up, Janet?
Yes. So sorry, if you could just, to finish answering my first question, if you could just clarify whether that $40 million, does that include the elimination of the K-Pass? And also have a question for Sarah.
Okay.
Exactly how would you amend the Alberta Parks Act? Just please describe the loophole that you want to close.
Yeah, so to answer your first question, Janet, yes, that other investment does include the money difference by canceling the Kananaskis Pass. So the announcement that we're talking about today is accounted for on that cost analysis that you're referring to. And what, you know, I've dreamt about updating the Alberta Parks Act for the majority of my career in parks as a conservationist. So I have a lot of ideas. But the particular loophole that we're addressing today is the need. So the former minister proposed, and well, didn't really propose, came out and announced that there would be a delisting and selling off of 175 parks in the system. And he did that without any public consultation. It came out as an announcement of this is what's happening. The loophole that we're discussing today and looking to close is to make sure that that kind of decision of removing parks from the system cannot be made without thorough public consultation. So a future minister could not just announce removing 170 parks from the system, that there would need to be a public conversation about that decision.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next caller. Little technical difficulty. We'll maybe take a second here. Sorry, just it's hot out here, so we're just gonna see if we can boot things up again.
You're doing great, Lizzie. You got this.
Recording in progress.
Okay, we're back online. Caroline, if you have a question, your line is open now. Caroline, your line is open. Carolyn, we'll come back to you. We'll just check if there's any more questions on the phone. Let's raise hand if you're on the Zoom. Carolyn, do you want to try unmuting again?
Thanks, my question's been addressed.
Oh, great, thank you. Okay, well, seeing no more questions, that concludes our press conference for today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.